Well, it's all going so well, isn't it? The hope, the excitement of the nation, a title defence in India in a Cricket World Cup, and it's all gone down the drain. Welcome to TCM Howzat, your one-stop shop to discuss all the cricketing news about right now. And we are discussing, of course, the Cricket World Cup, where England have lost 4 out of their 5 games so far, which is a sentence I didn't think I'd be uttering. Joining me to discuss all the Cricket World Cup news from the past sort of 2-3 weeks or so is Harrison, Burridge and Rob Rush, our regular contributors. And where to start? Let's just address the elephant in the room, Harrison. Worst title defence in the history of title defences, I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, it's not exactly been pretty in any way, really. I mean, first game against New Zealand was okay. Well, it was a bit of a worry, but it wasn't like we got major. We got beaten badly, but it felt like okay, this is to New Zealand, they're a good side. But then it's just kind of then we beat Bangladesh, and we thought okay, they found their feet. That was a convincing win. And then Afghanistan happened, and I mean, it's gone very sharply downhill from that exact game. I mean, it's turning into a shambles, and it's going to be a difficult few weeks ahead.
A difficult few weeks ahead, and not something we were expecting at the start of the tournament. I think if you'd have told any England fan that we'd have lost 4 out of 5 games by this point in the tournament, before the tournament, we would have looked at you and gone, what the hell? So, Rob, what's gone wrong? Where have England sort of lost their game in this 50 over dominance that they've had for so long?
Where do I start? Look, injuries don't help. We'll get the injury caveat out of the way. Obviously injuries don't help when, England were banking on Jofra Archer potentially coming back in at some point during the tournament, and he very swiftly got ruled out after, I think, like the third defeat. Matthew Mott said he was just there to report for rehab. So then begs the question, why is he out there anyway? Why have you built up all that pre-tournament type of hype of Jofra's going to be available, Jofra's going to come back in, Jofra's going to be fit, to then 4 games in go, actually, he's not. Whether England knew at that point that the World Cup was done, they're like, yeah, there's no point risking Jofra here. Don't know. Obviously, Reece Topley goes down and Bryden Cast has come in. To be honest, I feel like it's a slight sense of arrogance from England and from the ECB going, well, okay, so we won the 2019 one-day World Cup. We'll basically halve the amount of one-dayers we'll play. Obviously, COVID year had a huge impact, so we didn't play as many, but we still played, I think, a couple series. But we'll halve our total amount of ODIs played from 2015 to 2019 to 2019 to 2023. We'll stick with the same players that won us 2019, bar Harry Brook and Dawid Malan coming in for Jason Roy and Owen Morgan. Change the captain in Josh Buttler. And yeah, we'll bring Ben Stokes back in when he's had very little one-day practice, and we'll just hope that works. And it's just, look, I did predict England to win at the start of this, so yes, come for me on Twitter all you want. But look, like when you get that feeling, I had that feeling after New Zealand to an extent of how we played as like we're going to be lucky to get out of the group here. Look, I think ultimately it can if you want to simplify it, it can come down to this era went on too long. This group of players went on too long. Most, if not all of them, are past their best and should be moved on. And the thing that we've spoken about in our group chats all the time, guys, is that England's white ball depth is fucking insane. Like the amount of players that are ridiculously good at white ball cricket that have not been given a shot. Harry Brooks taken all these plaudits, fair play to him, but where's the consistent opportunities for Will Jacks, Will Smeed? Where are who are the next bowlers coming through? Obviously, Saqib Mahmood was meant to be a big part of this white ball team, but he's now suffered with injuries. Pat Brown was on the fringes of this white ball squad not too long ago, but he's just suffered with injuries. So it goes back to my first point. But where is this group coming from now? Where's this next group coming from? Which I think is obviously where the ECB are going to have to answer. I think Matthew Moss is going to be very lucky to stay in his job post-World Cup. I think, DCB will make him a scapegoat for how badly this has gone. There have been a lot of questions, quite rightly so, over Josh Butler and his captaincy credentials. My only issue is if you want to drop Josh Butler as captain, is it really, can you really keep him in the team? Is that, too like a big personality, big name player getting a captaincy taken off him? Can you really keep him in the side? And also, if you are going to take the captaincy of Josh Butler and you are going to move on from all these players, who are you going to make captain? No one else is really standing out. So, yeah, a lot of questions to answer for England, but I think ultimately we're all now just waiting for the official message that England have been eliminated from the World Cup, which is probably going to come very soon.
But it's mathematically possible, Rob.
Shut up.
Just believe.
Just believe. Just have some hope. No, I've not had some hope. And on Twitter in the past few days, or X, should I say, I decided that both Butler and Mott deserve the chop, which is probably a bit of a rash decision, but it felt like at the time, in the emotion, that was the right thing to say. Harrison, let's delve deeper into, I suppose, the players themselves. Rob's touched more on the general issues at stake here. It felt to me like our bowling attack, in particular in Indian conditions, has just not fired at all.
Definitely. I think the weird kind of thing for England with this side is, yes, they haven't played many ODIs before the tournament, but they had that New Zealand series and it all seemed reasonably okay. They were flying out to India on kind of a high in some ways, 3-1 series winning. A lot of things seem to be clicking, but then they've got to India and their form and everything has just escaped them. But yeah, especially in that bowling attack, I mean, Wokes and Cohen the first few games served up nothing more than just throw downs and hit me balls to the batters. To be brutally honest, it wasn't pretty to watch and really wasn't fair on them to kind of have to keep running in. But there was no choice really for the England bowling department and what they've got. Got all these medium fast bowlers that on Indian pitches more often than not are just going to sit up and be able to hit. I mean, credit to Rashid, he started the tournament slowly, but he's played a couple of good spells and stuff. I mean, his one against South Africa, I think, will stay with me for a while to be able to fight through the health issues he had on field and not be able to be confident in the things he had going on and still take 2 for 60. And that mauling was impressive. And Topley, I mean, he deserves a lot of credit. But it's like Wood as well, high pace is flown around. So, I mean, it's just been a mess. The bowling attack's been... as soon as you have a bowling attack exposed, like it was by New Zealand on the first game, you've got an uphill battle for the rest of the tournament. And England have never found a way to conquer that. I think you just hope now that Rob's touched on Harry Brook, but you hope another young guy in the squad, Gus Atkinson, gets these last 4 games. Is now, yes, there's a chance he can still qualify, but let's be realistic. We're losing to India Sunday, which but near enough. Whilst I think Ben Gardner tweeted that there is still a chance of England qualifying, even if they lose to India, there really isn't. Let's not. There's no point holding out hope. Start now building for the future and laying those early foundation blocks because there's going to be some important decisions ahead that you, Simon, and Rob have alluded to that England can't fail to get wrong. Else, we don't want to be here in 4 years' time if there is a World Cup in 4 years' time.
I mean, yeah, that's a whole other issue. That's a whole other podcast issue. But you make a valid point there about England's bowlers not firing at all and the issues that they've faced in away conditions. I think it's sort of shocked us all, and we didn't really expect it because even in the New Zealand series this summer, they didn't seem that off it. I suppose my next question, Rob, is about some of the decisions that have been made within the games. Particularly for me, one stands out, and that's the South Africa match and Josh Butler winning the toss and then deciding that he wants to chase. Now, in those conditions, we knew that it wasn't going to be a great decision from the start. And I think everyone was questioning why he did it. Is it because they thought they're a typically good chasing team? But it feels to me like that chasing era of England is over. Is that a fair assertion?
I wouldn't say it's necessarily over, but it's definitely not as strong as it used to be. And also, I think that exact game, the stats were that like the team batting second has a better like win percentage or something like that. They've played 3 or 4 ODIs there in 7 years. If you're seriously going to that as your front line of tactical analysis, then the entire team the entire team out there needs sacking. To be honest, like why on earth is that coming into a decision where you've played at where I don't think England have even played at that ground as well out of those 4 games I mentioned. I don't think England played any one of them. You can like the squad selection. We can talk about that. Like, what was the point of batting David Willey at 7? Can we talk about that, please? Like having your top 6 full of your so-called heavy hitters, and then leaving yourself no all-rounders basically, and David Willey being asked to bat 7, like that never was going to work from the start. Moeen Ali being vice captain and then not playing, like. He's so crucial. I've been harsh on him in the past in the Test side, but in the white ball side currently, he's crucial to England's plans as it helps Josh Buttler out, not having to run from the keeper's end to the bowler every single time. Moeen Ali plays quite an important role there of standing at mid-on, mid-off, and also can bowl a bit if we need him to. Like, you guys mentioned that New Zealand series. I think what I just want to clarify here, that was the B team ODI. That wasn't ODIs. That wasn't our main squad that went out. At this rate, the B squad should have flown out and played this World Cup because they probably would have done better. But yeah, look, like the decision making, bar that Bangladesh game that we won, everything just seemed flawed. Everything just seemed an issue, and there's no confidence. Josh Buttler talks about we're not here to defend our title. We're here to attack. Mate, you've got the attack of a Ford Focus and the defence of an even worse car. Like, let's be brutally honest here. You've got the defence of a broken down Vauxhall Corsa that just just doesn't want to work anymore. And as we alluded to, there are big changes that are going to have to be made. There seems to be, the bowlers. I think you could make a case for every single one of them, bar maybe Sam Curran and Gus Atkinson because they're young enough. I think you could, make a very big case for every single one of them being pushed to the side. I'll put it this way: if we're going to push Liam Plunkett aside after we won the World Cup in 2019, this bowling attack should be disbanded after this World Cup. If we, as Harris said, if we get to 2027, because apparently we're having a meeting post this World Cup where it's not looking good that we're going to get to 2027, which, as we said, is another podcast to debate in its entirety. But yeah, I think this is enough bashing England. I think we've got most of what we want to say out there. It's just, let's get these 4 games wrapped up. The only thing we'll say is, why the hell are we taking 2 months for a 10-team tournament? ICC, sort your shit out.
Listen, 2 months of cricket. Stop complaining, Rob. What's he had for tea tonight? He's coming out firing. I mean,
this is normal, Rob. This is normal.
Yeah,
I'm gonna say, just because I've not been on for a while doesn't mean that I've changed. Doesn't mean that I've changed my opinions or anything.
Yeah, and I never thought I'd hear Josh Buttler compared to a car, but there we go.
Hey, it was more England's defence, let alone not Josh Buttler personally. Come on.
All in a day's work. I think we've got a lot off our chests there. I mean, finally, Harrison, I think you've alluded to it. How do we go forward from here? What is the reset? And is there any point resetting, given the fact that we might not have an ODI World Cup in 2027?
Well, let's at least pretend that is there. I think it's in South Africa and Zimbabwe it's scheduled for. So that's where we're going in 2027, because it will happen, most definitely. Thank you, ICC. But I think obviously one of the weird quirks of the whole England thing is they played against Ireland before they went out there with a completely different squad. So, I mean, there was a good group of players in there that, there's Will Jackson, Phil Salt in the batting, you had Zach Crawley and Ben Duckett coming in after, and Sam Hain and other faces in there in the batting department, Luke Wood, Rayan Ahmed, and a few other faces in the bowling departments. They've got players there. I think it's going to take someone like kind of it was with 2015 with Strauss, Morgan and Bayliss, where he's going to have to come in and he's going to have to rip it up. There's no point showing sentiment. I think the problem is they got their hands tied slightly by the fact the central contracts already been agreed. And I did read they were meant to be all done before the World Cup, but as ever, they kind of drag on. So it's come out during at the worst time when England are being awful. So, I mean, because you've got a few players. I think Rashid's on a 2-year contract, Livingston's on a 2-year contract, but Livingston, I'm thinking he's one of the first who's probably got to go from this side, which might annoy the Lancashire fan here. But
excuse me, who do you think you are?
It's kind of that brutality in some ways is needed just to kind of just say, right, you and you're not going to make it 4 years' time, or we don't think you're good enough right now. So step aside, we're going to try some new faces and we're going to rip this up and go back to what worked. Because it's sad that England have crumbled like this, but ultimately, since 2015, we've had a fantastic 7 years of success in white ball cricket. And yes, it has to come to an end. And with England, it always has to come to an end in the most dramatic car crash fashion possible, because why do it any boring way possible? So it's just rip it up. There are faces there. It's just they've got to be brave. It probably takes a new coach to do that. Maybe a new captain. Who knows? Does Butler make it in 4 years' time? That's another discussion to have.
Rest in peace, England's ODI team, forever in our hearts. The golden era of English cricket has gone, done, dead. We can't be good in two formats, can we? That's the other thing. We just can't do it. If we're good in Test cricket, we can't be good in ODI cricket, and the other way around. It's brilliant being an England fan. It really is. It's just pain, just lots and lots of pain. Right. Let's turn to the rest of the World Cup then. I want to get something off my chest, actually, and that is how much of a shambles this tournament has been. Yes, it's been on every day. Yes, I love watching cricket, but as Rob alluded to earlier, 2 months of cricket is a long time. Added to that, the crowds in India, which is the home of cricket, have been dismal. It's felt like there hasn't been anyone there. It's been a bit of a shambles, I think it's fair to say. Also, whose idea was it to have a light show in a drinks break? Who came up with that? Because I would have loved to be in the PR meeting. Imagine being a player that goes to have a drink and you're just like treated like you're at the start of a Coldplay concert. I mean, what is that about? Rob, what? That's my rant over, by the way. What have you made about the tournament so far in general, the cricket side of it, not the organisation side, which I just ripped to pieces?
I mean, it's been nice, as much as we slated England for being shit, it was nice to see Afghanistan, pull up a bit of an upset. I think, it's kind of what you live for at tournaments. You want to see these, Netherlands doing what they always do in white ball tournaments and beating South Africa. That's always lovely to see. Yeah, there's been a few upsets, but apart from that, there's not been a lot to shout about, really, has there? I guess, you could say that coming from the England's point of view is kind of like, well, because England aren't doing well, there is not a lot to talk about from our perspective. But all other tournaments, you're like, it's making the news every day. Like, there's always something about, and I've just seen a bit of a lack of it, to be honest. I think you mentioned there the crowd sizes. Maybe don't leave confirming the games, dates, and stadiums until like 5 weeks before the tournament starts. Just a thought. You might want to have a secure plan in place before you start moving stuff around, and not before you start moving stuff around. Before you start hosting the biggest cricket tournament around, as you say, in the home of cricket, where Indian fans, should probably be making up 70% of attendances at all matches. Yeah, you've seen some really good. I mentioned Netherlands there. We did see Australia kind of taken to the cleaners. Glenn Maxwell, as much as he very much splits opinion, I don't think you can really begrudge him a fastest World Cup century. I don't think it's even fair to even think about criticising for that. That was just some of the most outrageous hitting of a cricket ball you will ever see. We've seen some other really good performances as well, but I feel like it's just all got lost, as you say, in kind of like the organisational side of things has been such a shambles that some of the cricket has got lost in that as well. I mean, we've had a very good day. We've had a very good game today, Pakistan, South Africa, that went down to the wire between two teams that should provide, comfort to their fans, thinking that they can win most games, but then always find a way to, give their fans, a raised heart rate and everything. So that was a very good game to watch and, catch up on social media and ESPN Cricket Info and stuff. But yeah, I think just a very underwhelming tournament so far. Maybe it will, in these last 4 or 5 group games and then the knockouts, maybe we'll get some games of cricket that will really sum up what ODI cricket is about and maybe has an impact on the talk afterwards. But yeah, I think overall for me, a bit lackluster, a bit disappointing. And I know you mentioned just on the cricket side of things, but these things go hand in hand. If you don't have a solid structure and a solid organisational standpoint, your on-field product's going to be affected by that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you say, it does feel very underwhelming. I've not really been into it, which is sort of weird to say because I was dead excited for it before it started, and then England sort of capitulated, and since then I've not really taken that much interest. However, I still keep up to date, and we've got to talk about India because whilst the actual substance of the games and stuff may not be that great, India are having an absolute flyer of a tournament, Harrison. My question is, can they go in unbeaten throughout the whole thing and win the Cricket World Cup?
Yes, I mean they're certainly capable of it. Whether they do it is obviously another matter because, as I touched before tournament started, they still do have that question mark over them in the knockout stages, and that will be the test for them to come. Because, quite frankly, no one's stopping them in the group stages. They've made a mockery of several opponents so far. I mean, you think back to their first game against Australia, they were, I think, 12 for 3 or 10 for 3, something like that, chasing around 200, and for some other teams, they'd struggle for there, and they may get over the line 7 or 8 down, but Rahul and Kohli basically saw it to the end. I think lost one more wicket and that was job done. So I think that was the first statement they made, and they've kept throwing punches since. And the one on New Zealand last Sunday is obviously the most significant so far. I mean, New Zealand are the only other side before maybe South Africa decided they're going to absolutely demolish England for everything they're worth last Saturday. New Zealand were the only other side that looked capable of running India close, and India squeezed them ridiculously in the last 15 overs of their batting and then just cruise the chase. I mean, if you get in any chase, if you get to a situation where you can play for milestones for one of your players, you know you're well ahead of the game and you've got complete control. And they've done that twice now, India. So I think that's kind of yes, you could say it makes a mockery of their opponents, but they've made a mockery of their opponents by dominating them from the start of the game until it gets to that point. So I think it's hard to see anyone stopping them. I'm fearing Sunday when England play them a lot because that could get quite messy quite quickly, and you just hope it's a quick game for everyone involved. But they are a team of that quality who do have quality across every department. I mean, they've lost Hardik Pandya, and they just go, "Oh yeah, we'll just bring Mohamed Shami in, and he takes five for." So I mean, that's the sort of team everyone is up against.
I think you've just got to sit back and watch greatness. Like you can't, there's nothing you can say. There's no way other angle of looking at them. They are just insane in a way that even our 2019 World Cup winning squad were not. They are just ridiculous, and honestly, they are a joy to watch. I want to talk about some of the underdogs, perhaps, who we didn't think were going to have an amazing tournament, but have come out firing, and that for me is South Africa being one. I mean, they've been absolutely amazing, dominant from the start. Oh, firework in the background. They clearly like that. And
That's the South African batting lineup.
yeah, fireworks. And then you couldn't pay it. You couldn't pay it to happen. And then, of course, for me, New Zealand as well, who I think people sort of sat on, even though we know they're amazing in World Cups. Rob, what have you made of those two as sides going into this week of matches?
Can we stop with the New Zealand disrespect, please, of calling them underdogs? We do this every time, and every time they remind us they're actually a very damn good side who should be reckoned with at every opportunity. This is a side that's dealt without Kane Williamson as well. He was injured in the lead up to the World Cup, came back. I think he got injured first game back. I talk about bad luck on a side. But New Zealand have always been, this really good side in World Cups. I don't understand why people give them the underdogs tag. I think to be honest though, the team kind of thrive on that a little bit. A bit of a sleeping giant in a way. A team that on paper probably should be up there, is up there 99% of the time, but still, I think maybe because it's being held in India, obviously India are going to have massive attention on them, and then you've obviously got Pakistan, that everyone's looking forward to if they get to play each other, and then if they get through to the knockout stages, England, the defending world champs, so New Zealand, unless it's like being held, I think in New Zealand they always get that disrespect, which I personally don't agree with. I feel like they should always be talked about as one of the front runners. And in South Africa as well, I've been really impressed with Marco Jansen. I think he only made his debut earlier this year in the Australia South Africa ODI series, and I was watching him. I think I was in the gym, and they had the game on the TV screens. I looked up and watching it, and I don't quite think I've ever seen a bowler like him, 6'9" or whatever he is, and bowls consistently rapid and just obviously the height means he gets the extra bounce off the wicket. I've never seen a bowler like in his first like 5-10 international appearances just look so at home to international cricket like he's been playing it for 20 odd years. Like the guy is an absolute gun, as we say. He's so good. He's so nice to watch. Shamsi as well. I think he deserves a fair bit of credit. I think he again goes slightly under the radar on that South African side. They've got David Miller, Rassie van der Dussen, guys who have, Rassie's been one of the best ODI batters for a while. And and Quinton de Kock as well, going out in his last ODIs for South Africa. He's had a very good start to this World Cup. I think he's trying to go out with a bang and try and get South Africa over the line. And to be honest, this again is South Africa again a little bit of not the disrespect, but the sleeping giant is suspect of I guess the teams will look at the media will look at them and go, on paper, they're really good, but will it translate to win games? And I think they've kind of heard enough of the talk and gone, right, we're gonna prove a few people wrong here. And yeah, like I said, they got over the line today in a thriller against Pakistan. Didn't make it easy for themselves at all. A late batting collapse. Nothing like a late batting collapse to spice up the end of a 50-over World Cup group game. But I think those two deserve a lot of credit, and I think they should probably join India in the semi-finals, but we'll have to wait and see.
I think South Africa I've been particularly impressed with, because I can remember in a pod which didn't come out. Sorry, guys, I didn't edit it. Also, thank Ben's Wi-Fi for that, to be fair. But in that pod, I can remember I was having a discussion about how South Africa had a lot of new talent coming through, a lot of new players, and they've just delivered. And it feels like, they're sort of a force to be reckoned with. Their aggressive way of taking on, a chase and taking on the ball is just beautiful to watch, and I'm loving every second of it. And I feel like it's nice to see cricket doing well in South Africa. Let's turn to some of the other teams then, and Sri Lanka. And honest to God, what I love about, I think what World Cups prove is that all these teams, as Rob says, that perhaps we'd be sleeping on, that are, they're not as good as India, Australia, and England, come out, fire, and show us that what they're made of, and show us that they are really, really strong sides. And it's an advert for having so many teams in this game. But on Sri Lanka in particular, Harrison, how impressed have you been by their performances?
I think it was a side I thought they'd do well for the tournament, but they started badly. They kind of threw away a game against Pakistan. That was the highest record run chase for Pakistan in World Cup cricket. Sorry, for any team in World Cup cricket that Pakistan did in that game. They also lost another one early, and you were thinking 0-2, this is not ideal, but they've come back well since they've won. They've got 2 wins on the board. Obviously, wiped the floor with England yesterday, and I think that was a real statement of intent. But ultimately, they just beat England in ODI World Cups. This is a routine now, and they did it with minimal fuss yesterday as well. But I mean, we talk about South Africa and their batting lineup, but Sri Lanka, they got Pathum Nissanka at the top, Gusal Mendes and Sadira Samawickrama in that middle order as well, they just play with such fluency and kind of freedom that it's just refreshing to watch. And then the bowling attack is where Sri Lanka comes short, but Lahiru Kumar is someone I've always thought of highly. And whilst he struggled in every game of this tournament, and then came against England yesterday and decided he's going to become the best bowler in the world, which as an England fan's annoying, but for someone who think for neutral, that's to kind of see that hostile fast bowling that he brings is fantastic to see. And Sri Lanka need that, because I mean they're doing this without Hasaranga. I mean that's kind of needs putting in context. And Feechana, their other kind of X factor spinner, he wasn't available for the first game of the tournament. I think he came back for the second one, but obviously he was still wasn't quite fully fit and didn't have match practice under his belt. So I mean they're fighting against things, and I mean just ultimately they've got Chris Silverwood as coach. I mean, yes, it didn't work out for him as England, but you'd say things may well have been out of his hands. So it's someone I like to see do well, and he's had a few good moments with Sri Lanka. So if they can keep doing well and maybe beat a few teams, and if they can get to the semi-finals, wow, that would be seriously impressive. Because actually, thinking of it, they've had a change of captain mid-tournament. Their captain's got injured. Gusal Mendes has taken over the reins. So I think they've not exactly had a smooth run so far.
Oh, Chris Silverwood. I sort of missed that, man. I never thought I'd say those words, but it's quite fun. I quite like him. I always liked him. Finally, then, who have we not touched on? Pakistan. they've looked strong, but they've faltered a bit recently, I guess. And then Afghanistan, we mentioned they're upset, but then the Netherlands, as we expected, haven't really made much impact at all, have they, Rob?
Unfortunately not. It's a side I think lots of people want to root for. It's like a bit of a neutral team. Excuse me. Yeah, just unfortunate for them, especially, you know, when, as we said, against Australia, when Glenn Maxwell's in that mood. Unfortunately, everyone's going to get it. You know, and then kind of they just dwindled, I think, under the pressure. They got off to a very good start, and then as soon as they lost like the opening pair, they were like, and here comes a collapse. Not been the best tournament for them. They've still shown that they can mix it with the big guys on occasion. You know, they did take down South Africa, which is now, it's becoming their trademark a little bit, taking down South Africa in white ball tournaments. I guess you could argue they've made a bit of a step. And, you know, I think as long as they, you know, I think what they have to avoid is where Ireland are in that situation where players are being forced to choose between representing their country or, you know, financial security in a club contract. And I think that's what Netherlands are, you know, they've always been teetering on that edge of, you know, some of their best players have not, you know, I think it was even early in the 2023 domestic season where a fair few, I think Scotland had a fair few players not allowed to be called away either because the clubs wouldn't allow them, the clubs wouldn't release them. Netherlands had a couple as well. So, you know, I think that's the next step off the field. On the field, they just need to find that consistency of, you know, being able to take it to the bigger teams. But it's hard when you come up against an India, Australia, England, who have got these seemingly unlimited resources to go fund cricket. I think as well, Australia, just touching them, I think they look like we all thought they would. You know, Smith and Labuschagne, they put on a decent partnership against the Netherlands. David Warner's back in the runs. You know, he seems to put his mini blip behind him. They've got Travis Head to bring back into this side. They've got Mitchell Marsh going pretty well. He's going to slide down to number 3. So whether that means one of Smith or Labuschagne will have to make way, who knows? They have made an interesting call behind the stumps. They did replace Alex Carey with Josh Inglis, and for what I've seen, Josh Inglis hasn't done awful lot better with the bat. I'm not sure about the keeping side of things, but you know, could be something to look out for there if, you know, Inglis doesn't make that shirt his own. Then in the bowling department, Mitchell Starc, Pat Cummins, Josh Hazlewood is about as good as you can get really for all 3 formats, let alone ODIs. You know, Adam Zampa's, I think rapidly, you think he's now the second leading Australian spinner in terms of wickets taken. He trails only now Shane Warne for wickets taken in white ball cricket for Australia. So he's going really good. He's being able to apply some of that pressure and take wickets with it. And I think for them, it's just now clean bill of health. Can you stay healthy? Can you get through the rest of these games, you know, can you avoid Pat Cummins going down with an injury? Can you, you know, maybe can you steal a game without Mitchell Starc? Can you give guys a break in order to make sure that they are, you know, as fit as they can be? But I don't think we'll see any of that until they've got a foot guaranteed in semi-finals. If they manage to get that with a couple games left, I'd expect a little bit of rotation. Just to, you know, as much as for giving guys a bit of a World Cup appearance, you know, some of the guys on that 15 or 18 man squads who aren't getting game time, you know, it'd be nice for them to get onto the pitch and play a game. But I think Australia are in a bit of a siege mentality of, you know, we're going to try win every game that we can, and, you know, we'll deal with the niceties later.
Let's come full circle, bring it back round to England to finish off this pod. And I just want to read you a quote, really. It says, full of big game players, experienced squad, mixed with...
Oh, here we go.
Ready to rise to the occasion. Ability to turn any position in a game into a positive one. And a massive strength in volatile nature of knockout cricket. That was Rob Rush on the bed of...
Back when the England ODI team...
later,
like I say...
have lost 4 games in the World Cup.
back when the ODI side actually gave fans confidence and belief in this side.
Some of us still have belief. I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh yeah, Harrison's still deluded. Rob's cursed England, and I apparently have fireworks coming out of my shoulders. It's been an absolute rollercoaster ride, and it's been fun to talk about everything World Cup. If you enjoyed, please do like and subscribe. My thanks to Harrison and Rob for joining us. Rob, apologies for throwing you under the bus there, but I just couldn't resist. Until next time, hopefully, maybe England, what is going on with my voice? Maybe England will still be in this tournament. I mean, I highly doubt it, but we shall see. Keep the positive mentality. Bye for now.